Welcome to episode 3 of the Stick Theory podcast. Today's guest is pretty special. We got Mr. Wonderful, the premier goalie stringer. Probably has 90% of the PLL guys, lots of high profile people been doing this for a while. So can't be more excited to have him on. Hope you guys enjoy the episode. Mr. Wonderful, thank you for coming on the pod, being on here, one of our first guests. So the question we like to start with on this podcast is, how'd you come up with the name Mr. Wonderful?
Well, first of all, man, thank you so much for having me on. My name is Tommy Bruno, aka Mr. Wonderful. That's a really good question, how I came out with that. I've been playing lacrosse for the better part of like 25 years. All right. I mean, more so now, like, pickup leagues, beer leagues, men's leagues, stuff like that. But I had the very unique opportunity right after college to take a road trip out to California.
Okay.
And I had only planned to stay there for, about a month or so. But I had ran into someone who offered me a job at Lacrosse Unlimited. And lo and behold, I called my parents about 3-4 days later and said, "Hey, I'm not coming home. I'm going to run a lacrosse shop." And I always said when I was working at the lacrosse shop, I said, "Man, there's all these guys on Instagram. They have their own names and everything. If I were to ever start my own page, I'd call it Mr. Wonderful, because I used to watch the Shark Tank all the time. And there's the guy on
Okay.
there, Mr. Wonderful.
Yeah.
But if you have a good lacrosse stick, they call it a wand." And I thought I was the smartest person in the world. I remember I was like pouring on a lacrosse stick and doing off the rebounder. And I was like, "Yeah, I'll call myself Mr. Wonderful." Lo and behold, when I came home about 3 years later, I started the Instagram page. I went with that name, and that's it. That's history right there.
That is awesome. Well, you've definitely become one of the godfathers of the goalie world for per se.
I
So kind of,
appreciate it.
yes, sir. How did you get into lacrosse, and then what pulled you more to like this stringing side of the sport? Because obviously a lot of people end up playing the sport, but like the stick stringing, like the technology stuff, just doesn't interest them. So what brought you over to this side of it?
Absolutely. Well, piggybacking off of one of your comments, a lot of people do play it. I grew up on Long Island. I've been born and raised in Long Island. We basically come out of the womb with a lacrosse stick. All right. So everyone's really playing here and stuff. And everyone always has aspirations to play at the next level. And, if you play enough, you always want to tinker around with your stick. I always encourage kids, they would say, "How do you string? How do you string? How do you do this? How do you do that?" Just like anything else you want to get good in life is practice and repetition. So I started stringing my sticks in like 6th grade. I started very young. And I always kind of stuck with it. I always kind of wanted to do my own stuff. Then I was stringing my friends. Then when I went to college, I was kind of like the stick doctor on the team or whatnot. But how did I get into lacrosse? I'm the youngest of 3 brothers. And
Okay.
of course, they needed a goalie. So when they would shoot in the backyard. And I remember one day fondly, they were like, "Oh, Tommy, come on over here. We're going to suit you up." And I got my arms like this, and they're suiting me up. And all of a sudden, like, I can't move my arms. And they had zip tied my arms to like set me up with all the gear. They're like, "All right, get ready." And they started wailing not lacrosse balls, tennis balls at me and stuff. And, when you're a younger brother, anything that gets your older brothers laughing, you just keep doing it. So I was like, "Yeah, I'll keep goalie from now on.
That's awesome.
But yeah, I started playing goalie. Unlike most kids who were like, "Hey, we need a goalie," and they throw a stick in your hand, I started out as a goalie. I would
Okay.
probably say it's like one, if not like 1 in 10, probably like 1 in 20 kids do that. You usually
Yeah.
start off playing something else. The first
Hmm.
stick I ever had in my hand was a goalie. So I was, born to be a goalie, played goalie, was fortunate enough to play 4 years of college ball, both Division I and Division II, largely on a full ride. And yeah, man, it's always been in my hand. Lacrosse is as long as I can remember, I've had a stick in my hand.
That is awesome. So, kind of with you being around the sport for so long, you mentioned 6th grade, are you able to remember that first stick you were ever able to string?
I do. I actually
Okay.
do. It's a really good question. The first stick I was really stringing was the Eclipse one. But I
Okay.
remember when they came out with the OG Nemesis, and that was still when like 20 Diamond was being used a lot. And I remember what I thought was perfecting my first goalie head in like 8th grade. So I was getting moved up to high school ball when I was in middle school, and I wanted to make sure I had this big bag. As a matter of fact, the goalie when I was at getting moved up was Scotty Rogers. Scotty Rogers was the goalie for the high school.
Okay.
Getting moved up, and he had this big
Big
bag. He
rig.
had this, and of course, I wanted to be just like him. So I strung up this big bag and whatnot. But yes, that is the first one I could really remember stringing up goalie stick wise. And I used to fiddle around with attack sticks and all that kind of stuff, put a tunnel whip on them and like, "Oh, look what I could do," and twirl around my stick and the ball. But as far as goalie sticks, yeah, that was the first one.
That is awesome. Hey, that's not a bad guy to try and have in front of you though to
No,
learn from
man,
a
I
little
still keep
bit.
in good touch with that guy. He's awesome.
That is awesome. So, what's changed the most about your process or mindset like over the years as you've become more and more comfortable treating a goalie stick and obviously gotten better and better?
So that's a good question. So as far as mindset, I mean, let me ask you. So as far as what I do, like as far as my philosophy, as far as stringing the sticks and everything.
Yeah. What would be your stringing philosophy as far as like, because obviously goalie heads are going to be different than field heads. They're not, some principles apply, but for the most part, like I've tried to fiddle around with them right now. It's like very different from stringing a field head. So, kind of what goes into that philosophy and craft of it?
Very good question. So basically, what you're asking is primarily why I started doing what I was doing. So
Hmm.
number one, I used to go to retail stores, big chain stores, and hey, can you string my stick? And it was usually hit or miss. If even sometimes like a regular stick got strung well. Very rarely, even now, 2025, is anyone really stringing a great lacrosse pocket as far as a goalie stick. So it always kind of felt like, even when I was running the shop, like goalies were almost treated like second class citizens on the lacrosse field.
Hmm.
And even if you break this down to like a more molecular level, I mean, everyone starts doing line drills, and all of a sudden the coaches look around and go, do a long toss. All right, let's get these guys warmed up. Half the time, the backup doesn't even get a good solid warm up. There's really not, goalie coaches on teams. So for a lot
Hmm.
of the time, goalies have just been, you have to just find your way. And then you just, it's sometimes you're kind of just thrown to the wolves and everything. And for me, what I really wanted to do was give goalies a landing zone for a
Hmm.
place for parents, coaches, players to go to not only rebound questions and things like that, and from anywhere from field play to stringing play, but have a place where they can go where they can be like, dude, if I send my stick to this guy, I know it's coming back the way it's supposed to be. All right.
Yeah.
This is what I do. This is my bread and my butter. I've been stringing goalie sticks for as long as I could remember, easily strung probably way over 10,000, probably closing in on 20,000 goalie heads in my life.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I do about 3,000 a year now, over 3,000 a year now. I've been doing this for about 5, 6 years. So, I mean, the numbers are just going to start going. I ran a lacrosse shop before this. So, you start doing the math in your head, you're like, oh, yeah, I've strung a lot of sticks. But I mean, you know what? As you know, going back to what I was saying, I mean, and Lars says this too. He doesn't even care half the time he's stringing the stick. Just wants you to have a good, well-strung stick, because it's
Yeah.
one of the most fun sports out there. It's one of the fastest, one of the quickest, most fun sports out there. But you can have all the best equipment in the game. You have the best stick, the best shaft. The only thing that the ball really touches the entire game is the mesh and how it's
Yeah.
strung. So you're never going to have a good experience if you don't have a good pocket. And the thing is, I used to coach out west for years, and there'd be a lot of kids that would sometimes be like, "Man, I'm having a really tough time. I don't know what I'm doing." I'd take a look at the stick. I'd be like, "Dude, you need to get this thing restrung. Come stop by the shop afterwards." All of a sudden, you give that kid a semi-well strung stick, and the whole experience changes for that kid. And it's double sometimes for goalies. They're playing for something that the ball's not coming out right. There's no rebound control. It's popping out. And it's like, if you just give them even a semi good pocket, they're like, oh, wow, I'm catching this on saves. Oh, my outlets are, I don't have to like do crazy stuff with the stick to get the throw. It changes the whole game. And that, if you're really going to grow the game, that's the best way to grow the game, man. Give a
Yeah.
great experience to the kids that are starting out. So I think that starts with the string job.
That is awesome. So one question we also like to kind of build on that is this is more for the field sticks. Like, how do you approach different player positions or playing styles? Is there kind of a goalie equivalent to that? I'm not super familiar with kind of the theory and like technology of stringing a goalie stick.
Good question. And I think that was like your initial question and what you asked before. There's really, like, I would say 3 to 4 things you want to look for in a goalie stick. Number one, we'll go from shot in to shot out. So
Hmm.
as the ball comes in, you want to make sure you have good rebound retention. So you want to make sure the pocket depth to that, depending on the age level you're at, is probably anywhere from give or take 2 to 3 balls deep. All right. Any
Okay.
deeper than that, you're going to incur more bag on the stick, which usually brings about more whip, a little bit tougher to throw the ball the
Mhm.
younger and experienced you are. So what you want is, number one, is good rebound control, good ball control too. So once the ball is in your stick, you want to be a field general as far as clearing the ball. Okay. You want to
Mhm.
make sure if you're under duress or maybe you're man down, that you have to handle the ball a little bit, that it's in there, it's not rattling around. So if we touch upon it, usually I say the word channel. There's a channel in the stick that helps out kind of maintain ball control in the stick.
Mhm.
So you're starting out with rebound retention to ball control to a smooth release. So those are the three most important things in the stick. is the rebound retention, the ball control, and having a nice smooth release. All right, i.e., it not catching when you're trying to throw or hooking into the ground or sailing or anything like that. Now, granted, just like players on the field players, everyone's kind of got their different feels and different things like that. So the last thing that kind of comes into play, which is a lot less for goalies, is sometimes whip. There are sometimes goalies who prefer a little bit more whip on the stick. And generally, those are goalies that are a lot more active out of the cage. They're running around and stuff. They're sometimes doing a few more fakes, things like that, creating a little bit more opportunity outside of the crease for the guys in the field.
That's awesome. That is definitely very insightful for me. And kind of the last question we like to ask to wrap up this, everyone's kind of had a similar answer. I'd be curious to hear what yours will be. Is do you believe there's such thing as a perfect pocket?
A perfect pocket? Oh, I mean, I guess it's a loaded question, but yeah, perfect pocket. Yeah, I got like 13 of them laying right now on the floor. No. Perfect pockets. Yeah, take a look right back there. No,
yes, sir.
But yeah, man, I think it all depends upon the player you are. All right, because I have played with guys that were Division I All-Americans that I looked at their stick and I was like, do you know if you just put like a little performance into this stick, you probably would have been like a 2-time Division I first team. Like you would have been like leading, like oh, this is the way I like it, man. Like it's like sailing around, it's throwing into the dirt. It's like, oh my God, what are you doing? It all depends, man. It depends what you like. Depends if you like a little whip, a lot of whip. What one person may consider a great pocket, the next guy may consider trash. All right.
Yeah.
You got to listen to what the player is asking you. What I've tried to do is I've tried to model the best things that I've found in string jobs that I've used over the years, and to the best of my ability, incorporate some of those things into every single stick I string. There are plenty of guys that say, hey, listen, I like this, I like that. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to give this guy what I think would be good for him. All right. With all the stuff he's giving me, and it may not be what he was saying or she was saying, but then him or her gets it back and you're like, oh yeah, I really like this. I'm like, yeah, I thought you would, and everything.
Yeah.
That's pretty much how a lot of this goes.
That's awesome. That's one cool thing too. And like talking to some of the stringers, like I have been, it's like, obviously some people come to you with certain preferences, but like at the end of the day, if like you're a good stringer, you will string them essentially what they need. Like I've had people with that same experience. Like kid came to him like, hey, I want XYZ. And that stringer said, okay, I can understand that. Like they tweaked it slightly and they're just like, oh, that's so much better than I could have asked for. And that's honestly pretty rewarding as a stringer personally.
It is. And you know what? That's the same thing you look for, for example, like, I don't know if you own a home or if you've ever seen home shows, someone may say, hey, listen, I have this idea I want to do on my house, but like, that's not what they do. They don't do home improvements for a living. So they go to a general contractor and they say, hey, this is what I want to do. What do you think? They're like, oh, well, I think you should do this, that. I think it's a great idea. What if you did it like this? They're like, oh, that's great. That's why I came here and everything, So as much as, if it was just like, hey, this is the pattern that I use, can you string this? I would just be like, hey, man, if that's the pattern, that's the way you want it strung. Why are you coming to me? You could probably just do it yourself. So not that I've ever said that to anybody, but it's like, hey, they're coming to you because they're looking for lack of a better term, for their hand to be held. They're looking for you to be the professional and for you to steer them in the right way. I've taken a lot of pride over the past 5 years to basically do what you said and do just that.
That is awesome. All right, so that kind of brings us to our next session here, and it's almost kind of a forgotten part of the lacrosse world. It's kind of, what are some of the current heads and meshes and like goalie tools that are out that you enjoy or like coming out that are most excited about? Because it feels like for me, because I'm a big gear nerd, goalies don't seem to get a lot of love. Like we just recently got the Eclipse 3 after what felt like a decade or something.
Yeah, man. Yeah. So, I mean, listen, again, piggybacking off of what I said before, we don't always get a lot of love, man. Sometimes it takes 2 decades to get something cool, but all jokes set aside, there are some cool things on the horizon for goalies. I don't want to be too much of a spoiler, but there's only so many big brands out there as far as manufacturers who are making, different heads. And I think a lot of things have been said, a lot of things have been heard. And I think a lot of brands and manufacturers are quick to remedy that situation. I think they're coming out with some cool new heads in the future. I have a really cool opportunity to string for like 90% of the PLL goalies. All right. And a lot of the other guys. So they're always telling me, hey, I'm prototyping this or I'm testing out this. And like, what do you think about that? I'm like, man, can I get in that room over there? And they're like, not yet, maybe soon. But Yeah, there are some cool things being released. But I mean, hey, listen, I'm just another small guy. I don't know anything for sure, and the last thing I want to do is speculate and be like, "Oh, Mr. Wonderful said this one's coming out," but I can say there are some cool stuff in the works for goalies in the future as far as heads and mesh coming out.
That is awesome. So, kind of going back into that meshes a little bit. What's the biggest difference in some of the goalie meshes out there? Because to someone outside looking at it, it looks like a lot of goalie meshes look pretty similar, but they probably act a little differently. Could you kind of expand on that a little bit?
Good question, good observation. So, primarily, there's about two different shapes that are going to go across each brand. There's a hexagon and a diamond shape. All right.
Hmm.
Now, for years and years and years, hexagonal shape was predominantly used as the main shape of the diamonds. Ironically, what I'm holding right now is String King Grizzly Mesh, which is actually it's classified as a rhombus shape right here.
Hmm.
So the two biggest rhombus ones that are the mainstream ones that are going to be EDC Impact Mesh, which comes in semi-hard, semi-soft, the black, the white, the striker, and then you have the Grizzly Mesh, which is this stuff right here. Now everything that came before that, which was really my favorite stuff, is the hexagonal stuff, which was like the Hero Mesh and everything like that. Mesh
Yeah.
Johnny has their own take on that. That's the Defiance and the Disciple Mesh right there too, as far as their hexagon and their rhombus. And then you have the other brands too, String King, things like that. There are the off brands too as well. But for the most part, it's going to be a diamond and a rhombus. I get asked this a lot. What's the biggest difference and whatnot? I happen to gravitate to a hexagon mesh
Hmm.
only because I think durability wise, structural integrity wise, I think it provides a longer lasting, smoother release on the outlets. And if you're a good enough stringer and you're worth enough your salt, you can string a good pocket that has
Yeah.
good retention, has a good bag. You don't need the elasticity of a rhombus mesh to account for an extra break in or whatnot. Because what really winds up happening, usually very shortly after your first few warm ups or a couple games, rhombus mesh has a tendency to break in and bag out a lot more
Hmm.
than hexagonal mesh. And unless you account for that on the front end with the pattern, which is kind of like what I'm doing right now, like the top right here is still very, very tight because I haven't really broken this in yet. But when I break
Hmm.
this in, it's going to loosen out. And you still want that channel, and you still want that consistency to be there. But a lot of people don't usually do that on the front end. And sometimes, even if you do, not all sticks break in the same. So, really,
Hmm.
consistency is the biggest thing for me. And I think you get that the most out of hexagonal mesh.
That is awesome. So, kind of with that hexagonal mesh, you said it's your favorite. Have you gotten a chance to be involved in kind of any product development or testing of that stuff yet?
I
Or
would
are we
love to
still?
toot my own horn right now and be like, yeah, totally. I'm on the back end designing stuff right now. I did have heavy input on one of the meshes that came out recently. I actually designed it from the ground up, but another company actually wound up buying it out. It wasn't the right time for me. I was a little bit smaller of a guy in the beginning for that. Um, but for the most part, right now, I don't. I'm not like in a board meeting room or anything like that. I'm hoping that day comes soon or anything. For the most
Yeah.
part, I'm just kind of grinding here, getting just keep it up, with all the orders coming through. Um, but I do get a lot of messages and inboxes and stuff like that, and I would love for someone to be like, hey, yeah, we're going to be in your town, or hey, you want to fly out to such and such city for the
Yeah.
time? I'd love to entertain the idea. I think it would be great.
Yeah.
But
Hey,
only 4 or 5 years in, maybe soon.
yeah. Hey, wouldn't that be the dream for us all to start getting
Yeah,
involved on
man. Yeah.
that side? So obviously we mentioned it, goalie position. We like to joke doesn't get a lot of love. What would be some innovations or kind of like some new technology you think the industry could benefit from?
You know what I would just like to see is, there are tons of like colored meshes and colorways for like
Hmm.
short stick guys. And when it comes to the goalies, it's always like really loud. It's like a Canadian flag or a Maryland flag. Like it's super loud. Like I wish we can get something just sleek and sexy, like a little striker mesh or something like
Yeah.
that. So give us the colors, not just the black. We like colors too.
Yeah.
But that's really why I got into the dyeing aspect of it and customizing the sticks. For a large point of time, it was just really I carried as many string colors as I possibly could, and then I started getting into the dyes because again, you want to be able to be servicing the other 1% of the
Hmm.
lacrosse.
Yeah. So with the dyeing, what kind of got you into that aspect of it more than just the stringing? Was it the not lack of customization, basically,
That's
or?
that's a funny question. So I had like 3 years ago, a big time premier player from Long Island here. hit me up. They're like, yo, I want this like sick custom head, blah, 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 blah. But like, I wasn't dying at the time. So I was like, I didn't want to miss the order. I wanted the order and everything like that. So I was like, let me hit up my boy Lacrosse Unlimited, see if they can dye it, ship it to me. Whatever it may be, it kind of fell through the cracks. The order never showed up, and the customer needed it like the next day. And they were like, hey, is the stick ready? And I was just like, oh my God, this thing never showed up. And this customer needs it the next day. But like, I'm no rookie. Every kid when they were younger has dyed a few heads or two. I was like, let me see if I can do it. So I was just like, I ran to Michael's. I got a few things, got a few supplies. And I wound up taking like all night, 3 hours, lining up level lines, water lines, making sure it came out absolutely perfect. By the end of it, I was like, all right, it wasn't all that hard and everything. I'm sure if I practice some more, I'll get a little better at it. And that's pretty much how it happened. It was just kind of like an order was about to fall through, and I was like, "Shit, I'm not gonna not come through for this person." So I went out and did what I had to do. Came through for that person. They said the head was awesome. They wound up being like a high school All-American, and it was just like, hey, I think I could dye heads, and that was it. I started out kind of just simple fades, solid colors, but then I do a lot of the custom work now too.
Yeah, that's the cool thing. Talking to SoFlo last week, he's obviously a big dyer.
Yeah.
And he was mentioned to me. I'm trying to get him on there. Cermak. Some of the stuff he does dyeing wise
he's
absolutely
good.
Wild.
Yeah, I think me and him, if I'm not mistaken, I think it was someone else. I partnered up with someone and did like a collaboration, but it was with Zombie Dyes. He's really good too.
Yeah. That is awesome. So if you could design your dream goalie head, what would that look like? Or is it already out? Like you think it's the best head on the market?
I've definitely put the pencil to paper a couple times. It's a pipeline dream, I'm sure, as anyone will tell you. And that would be cool. If like something I could leave. I'm not like a big leave my legacy or leave my mark type of guy. I mean, we're all going to come and go from this earth, man. We're lucky if our great grandchildren remember our names and everything like that. But I think it would be cool to put a head out, but I wouldn't want to just be putting a head out for the sake of putting a head out. I've seen some trash come along over the years, and it looked like guys just trying to make a quick buck, and the stick was poorly designed or poorly manufactured, or it was overpriced, or it was this, that, or the other thing. And it's just like, hey, man, if I was going to come out with like a good head, I would want it to be just as good as the Impact or the Eclipse or the Nemesis, all those heads. I wouldn't want to just have a head for the sake of having a head, but of course, a lot of capital goes into that. So, we'll see. I got to save up.
Yeah, that is for sure. So do you think, how much more could the goalie stick technology go up? Because looking at the Eclipse 3 to the Eclipse 2, it didn't like there were like major differences from the outside looking in at it as far as stringing them wise. Like what's some more ways goalie heads could keep improving? I'm sure they could get stiffer, maybe hold shape better, but.
Yeah, so that's it. So I think warping is the biggest thing for goalie heads. So I think even like the stiffer these heads get, I don't know if I've thought of like the right terminology for this, but it's like, I don't know, the stiffer you make something, sometimes the more it's going to break. Like there's a lot of breaks with the Warrior Nemesises because they've actually made them so freaking strong, so stiff that a lot of them break. What they did was with the Eclipse is they reinforced the top. They kind of bent the top a little bit forward too. It improved kind of like one-handed ground balls and raking and different things for the head. But sometimes if you drive that head into the ground too much, it has a tendency to warp a lot on the sides, especially in some hot weather. And the Impact too as well. The Impact's another great head, but if you're like a goalie that sometimes is driving that head into the ground a little too hard on those ground ball or low shots, I see a lot of dads and moms reaching out like every 6 to 8 months, being like, I need another string job. And I'm like, crap, I hope like a sidewall didn't blow out. It's not. The head just is completely fakak to one side, But yeah, I would say, I don't know. I mean, I guess if I had to answer that question, I'd probably just try to do it myself. But I guess stiffer goalie heads that can really keep their shape. Yeah, you want something in a perfect world. You want that head that you buy. You want that to last for at least 8 to 12 months. I think that's 12 months is a home run. If you're playing like travel ball, high school ball, you're playing a lot of ball, you're hoping that lasts 10 to 12 months.
Yeah, I think that would be fair. And even I think you're seeing that now with field heads a little bit too. Like I know me personally, I've had some where like I use it for 3 months and then all of a sudden, like it's just warped beyond belief
Yeah,
because
yeah.
playing pole, you're throwing these poke checks. Like eventually, your head starts here, and then it just starts bending over slightly. And you're just like, it's usable, but like, is it really what I'm wanting? So
Yep. And then like you
yeah,
pick up somebody else's head that's brand new, and you're like, "Whoa, I got the same head, and mine's like what looks like two different heads." Like it's crazy.
yeah. All right, so let's go on to this next part. So this is kind of more the community aspect of everything. Lacrosse does have a passionate and growing gear culture. So goalie community specifically, because it's kind of so the way I look at lacrosse, you kind of have lacrosse community as a whole, but then there's like small niches within there. You're kind of fortunate to be in two, like the stringing and the goalie community. Has the goalie gear culture grown as much as we're seeing like some of the field stuff grow, or how does all
Hell
that?
no. No, I mean, dude, they got like prism heads that are in like four different colors. I mean, we haven't even gotten a clear head. I think we got a prototype one time, but
Yeah.
like, I mean, dude, the shit that they come out, excuse my language, the stuff that they come out with is crazy. You know, I mean, chrome heads, this, that, and the other thing. And dude, like a dip dyed head was the coolest thing in the world when I was in like eighth grade. If you
Yeah.
had like zombie head, like some crazy, like a dripped head, like that thing was the coolest thing in the world. Now it's like you could put anything. You could dye if you're good enough. You could dye anything on the head. You could string stuff on the head, different patterns. Um, but I mean, as far as like these heads that they come out with, when they come out with these like prism heads that are pink, slime green, chromed out. I mean, I know
Yeah.
the goalies have the chrome heads and everything, but I would say for the large part that the rest of the lacrosse field usually gets the cool stuff for the goalies
Yeah.
get.
Yeah. That is definitely true. That's one thing. So we always joked about that I probably was a goalie in another life.
Yeah.
Selfishly, as a gear nerd, I'm kind of happy it didn't get to that point because I am able to use all those cool heads you're talking about.
No, I mean it's cool. I mean, right back here. I mean, I've got a ton of like one-off heads. Like, I mean, I've got like a Galaxy themed head back there. I've got the Prism head right there on my couch with like a two-tone chef that I got from Canada, and then like over on my wall, I have like the highlighter colored heads over there. But like I do have all these cool collectible things, but none of them are goalie things. You
Yeah.
know, so
That is that. Yeah. So, how has social media kind of changed the way stringers and brands are able to connect, would you say? Because I know talking to some people, there's some old, like, I guess you go OGs of the space, for lack of a
yeah.
better word. Like, they're talking about back in the day, they had the old lacrosse forums and things like that. There wasn't really a social media presence. So, how has social media kind of been able to help with a lot of this or even hurt to an extent?
Well, I mean, I think what I'll do is like anything, I'll touch on the bad and I'll get to the good. All right.
Hmm.
The only bad I think has ever come with it is just like anybody else. It's like, if you strung for a little bit, like you come out with an Instagram page and like you get a couple clients or whatnot, then it's like, oh, if you're not stringing like this way, like you don't know what you're doing and things like that. Or, oh, if you don't do this, you should stop stringing. And it's like, oh, I don't know why you're doing that. It's like, dude, you've been here for like 5 minutes, like we're
Yeah.
probably doing that. Like the customer may have requested that or something like that, or you don't know why it's being strung like that. It could have been for any other reason, but chirpers, no one likes a chirper or anything like that. But I mean, I actually think the pros far outweigh the cons. I mean,
Yeah.
as far as a pro for me, it's completely changed my life.
Hmm.
Completely changed my life. I started this business out of my car. I was living in an Airbnb when I started this business. Yeah. I was doing construction. My father had just passed away. I had really nothing really going on in my life. As a matter of fact, very, very long story short, the only reason I came home from that job in California is my father was actually diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer. And I was like, crap. I was like, well, I'm leaving California. So I drove home. My mother had like a year left till she could retire. So I didn't work for a whole year. I took care of my dad while he was like that. And one day I'm stringing a lacrosse stick for my next door neighbor, like this kid who's like in middle school. My dad's like, hey, man, you should start a business doing that. I was like, Dad, you're crazy. Come on, man. No, no one's ever. How am I going to start a business? But I didn't really have anything going on. So I was taking care of him. So I was like, whatever. For shits and giggles, I'm going to post this. I'm going to start an Instagram page. So I started Mr. Wonderful. I was like, hey, Dad, check it out. I tried to like make his day one day. I was like, I did it. I did what you said. And then like one day, some dude who was a high profile dude hit me up. He's like, can you string my stick? I was like, yeah, man, cool. No problem. So like I posted his stuff. I'm like, yeah, man, this guy asked me this. So blah, blah, blah. All of a sudden, everyone saw that. They started hitting me up. Then John Kincannon hit me up, who was on the PLL Atlas at the time. And
Yeah.
he's like, you hit him, like, can you string my stick? And that was pretty much it. After that, once I started doing that, I got very diligent, and I had moved out of my mom's house into an Airbnb. After my dad had passed, I was in a rough place, and I just kind of stuck with it. I was doing it in my car, the Airbnb, and then my old college buddy who I played with in college hit me up. He goes, "Dude, I'm getting a house over here on the beach." He goes, "Why don't you come be my roommate?" So I started doing it out of that room right there. And I was working another job the entire time. I was always working two jobs.
Hmm.
And I used all this money that I made on the side from stringing lacrosse sticks to actually buy a house. I actually wound up buying a house like 3, 4 years ago.
That's awesome.
Same block that I grew up on, 4 houses down from my parents' house, actually. And I stuck with it. And as a matter of fact, I still use the exact same T-ball bat that my dad bought me. This is the first piece of sporting equipment that my dad ever bought me. And I use it to break in every single pocket. And it's kind of cool because I actually right now I have I have 9-month-old twins. I became a dad about 9 months ago, and it's cool because this business kind of really came full circle for me. I started this business while I was taking care of my pops. I always wanted to be a dad, and here I am still using the same thing that he gave me, stringing this stuff up, made a business out of it. And as of about no more than 30 days ago, I quit my 9 to 5, and I am literally doing this full time. And
Wow.
it's been quite the journey, man. It's been quite the
Yeah,
journey.
that's
But
awesome.
yeah, really cool. I know I kind of went off on a stretch right there. I went off on a tangent. But yeah, man, it's been a really, really fun ride, and I'm looking to stay with it as long as I can. Obviously, now I'm supporting the family with it and everything. But yeah, I'm sorry if I went on a rant there and got onto with the original question, but you could touch
Uh,
back.
I think thank you for sharing all that
Yeah,
too.
man.
Not a lot of people would be willing to share that, so I do appreciate that. Thank
Yeah,
you.
of course, of course.
So, kind of going through there, you mentioned starting stringing when you were younger. What would be some advice for, I guess, younger players getting into stringing, or even just someone new getting into the stringing, even if they've been playing for a couple years now?
Yeah, good question. Just like anything else, and like I said in the beginning, if you're gonna want to get good at something, I know sometimes the hard thing is to hear is you have to do it over and over and over again. The cool thing is though is it's if you want to be like 220 pounds shredded 6 pack, you're gonna have to spend some hours in the gym. You're gonna have to put those hard
Hmm.
yards in. This right here, you might get a couple of calluses on your fingers. It's not good. But as long as you got a brick wall or a school nearby or anything that you can go play some wall ball with, you can test out your product right away. You can go
Yeah,
back home and you can make the tweaks that you want to know. Before you know it, probably by the time you've strung like 100 sticks, you'll be like a professional, and you can do this stuff too as well. That's it. Practice makes perfect.
practice makes perfect. That's kind of how I got my start too. And like you're mentioning, like going to the wall, and that's the biggest because you obviously learn better doing it.
Oh
Because
yeah.
I remember the first stick I ever struck, I touched on this last week, was it was a Kyle Hartzell replica at one point. And obviously we
Mhm.
know Hartzell, he liked to shoot from two, so he had a fair amount of whip in the stick. So I strung it up
Mhm.
being like, oh, I'm gonna play exactly like him. When to go hit the wall, first shot, first pass, straight to the ground. I was like, yeah, I
Yeah.
might have to let's go back to the drawing board on this one. And like through that, we started tweaking it a little bit and getting to like a similar pattern to what I'm doing now. So yeah, practice does make perfect on that one,
Yes,
especially
sir.
some personal experience.
Yes, sir.
And so, as we're getting close to wrapping this up, we like to finish out with a rapid fire round. So
Cool.
you're just going to say the first thing that's going to come to your mind, and we'll go from there. Right?
All right.
All right. What's your favorite mesh out right now?
12 diamond mesh dynasty.
Okay. What's your favorite goalie head out right now?
Eclipse 3.
Clips three. What's the most underrated goalie head of all time?
Oh man. Um, Underrated. I'm just gonna go that old radar that Maverick used to make. It was actually
Okay,
yeah.
that is awesome. You or no you in the head?
Uh, I'll go you.
You? Okay, perfect. Tape or no tape on the stick?
A little bit of tape.
A little bit of tape. And the last one, favorite head to string.
Favorite head to string? Eclipse 3.
So what's your favorite field head to string? I know you still do it a
Oh,
little
field
bit,
head. Oh, field
or
head.
both.
Oh, you know what? I love the Lakota. The Lakota is fun to string up.
Lakota, always good. Hey, L4 dropping soon.
Yeah.
I saw
Yeah.
that leak
Yeah.
out there. Excited for that one. So, well, Mr. Wonderful, thank you so much for coming on, sharing everything you did, especially that last part. It's like sharing that personal stuff on here. I do appreciate that. And so where can kind of listeners find your work, reach out to you, follow you, all that?
Cool. So I mean, guys, if you ever want to, shoot me a line or anything like that, I operate 99% of this right off of my social media page. I tried to put my name up there. It's at Mr. Wonderful. It's MR underscore WAND underscore ERFUL. So you can just go to the search bar, just type in Mr. Wand. It probably should be the first thing that comes up, Mr. Wonderful. But guys, shoot me a message. I'd love to be of service any way I can, whether you'd like to use my services or you just have a question you want to rebound off me in regards to the position.
All right, perfect. Well, Mr. Wonderful, thank you so much for coming on the pod, kind of learning on this journey with me. So if you're new here, make sure you're liking, comment, and subscribe for these more episodes dropping soon. And thank you again, sir.
Thank you, man. Thanks for having me. Have a good one.
Yes, sir.